This 96 kilo category was a proper up and downer. My predictions were off, misses were made, comebacks were had, bomb outs were plentiful, good lifts were red lighted. It was just an utter bloodbath of a session. In fact, I normally leave the stats until the end of the video, but here's one just to set the tone for you. There were 5 makes in the clean and jerk out of the 10 second and 10 third attempts. That's 5 out of 20 clean and jerks, not including the openers, were made. 15 were missed. Now this episode is brought to you by Athletes Only, a new one-day online education event brought to you by Weightlifting House. Learn how to develop the habits of a successful athlete, fuel yourself efficiently, recover better, create a winning mindset, and much, much more from some amazing speakers like Dr. Sam Spinelli and Olympic champion Maud Charon. The first 100 tickets are at $20 off. Link down below. More about the event at the end of the episode. Also, the deal of the day is competition collars. 20% off all competition collars. Link below also. It was Bartolomew Adamus of Poland who made for a nervy start. He missed 160 kilos before Korea's Dongju Yu took the same weight but with apparent ease. Adamus was fine on his second attempt at that same weight. Next up would be Toshiki Senpai Yamamoto, the home crowd favourite who came in with 161 kilos in lifting shoes, not nanos, which he normally lifts in, which he saved despite losing his balance somewhat in that bottom position. Classic Senpai. Kyrgyzstan's Bekdulot Razulbekov made easy work of 162 kilos on his opener before Adamus finished his snatches with a nice 163. Dongju Yu got 165 kilos overhead on his second attempt, but his left arm was not locked out and he had to drop it. He opted to move up in any case, and so Toshiki Senpai came out at 166 on his second attempt, which he just barely held on to with a collapsing knee, though he did hold on to it, and so he would be credited with that 166 second attempt. Razulbekov tried the same weight but put it down in front. He followed himself and hit it this time, just despite the distraction of technical officials insisting on him covering up the 3 stripes on each side of his singlet with tape, which promptly peeled off mid-lift. Dongju Yu's move up to 167 kilos after his miss at 165 kilos was bold and was not successful, so he left with 160 kilos from his opener, which would be way off medal contention. Then, to the happiness of all of the fans watching, Toshiki Senpai brought out his best snatch of the day to hit 168 kilos on his third attempt, an enormous lift for him. And as you would expect for someone with such a monster squat, I mean, he squats over 320 kilos, he stood it up no problem. Now, the opener for Evgeny Tukantsu was, for me, basically the watershed line. It was the BC AD. It was the trying to work out at what point we would know whether Meza would have any real competition. And we found out, I think, pretty early on that probably he wouldn't. We hadn't seen Evgeny Tukantsu since 2019, where he'd hit 400 kilos in his total. He'd been clean and jerking over 220 kilos. He snatched 180. He would have been someone who could have really gone to head with Meza Osona, but he opened with 170 kilos and he did not look sharp. The pull looked heavy. He lost his balance sideways and he missed the weight. He retook it on his second attempt, but he just couldn't stick the bar overhead despite it being a better looking lift. And so he then bravely opted to move up to 173 kilos, which brought out other lifters ahead of him and afforded him a bit of time to rest. At this point in the competition, there was just a little bit of confusion. We had Kedemar Valania being called to the platform, which was an error because of a last-minute change from Chinese Taipei's Chen Po Zhen. So things were then corrected, and Chen Po Zhen came out and hit his 171 kilo opener. He also just has some absolute wheels on him. His quads are just enormous. And also, he snatched 180 kilos in training recently, so we overlooked him incorrectly. Then the once 89 kilo Kedemar Valania did come out with 172 kilos for his opener, which he hit very solidly. Easily the stockiest lifter in that session by some way. Next, the person who I think we all basically assumed would end up winning the snatches, Anton Plesnoy of Georgia, came out for his 173 opener. And it was a bit of a shocker. I mean, he made the lift, but he needed all of the platform to chase that bar around until he could get his hips back under the bar and actually stop it from heading off towards the central referees. That central referee, perhaps because of that, did end up giving him a red light, but the jury didn't get involved, and so the lift was passed for his opener. Miso Hosono then chose to do the same thing, coming out at 173 kilos, lowering his opener down there just to get it in. He's notorious with his snatch openers, and so this just made sure that he was able to get a lift in, and he made the 173 absolutely fine. It was at this point also that you can really begin to see the difference in physical general strength of Miso Hosono and everybody else. Just the speed with which he pulls the 173. He's not as technically accurate perhaps as some of them with his barbell trajectory, but he looks significantly stronger off the floor. Canada's Bodhi Santavi, who had recently snatched 181 kilos at the Pan Am Champs, that's more than everybody in this competition except for Anton Plesnoy. He came out also with 173 kilos for his opener and made easy work of it. Yevgeny Tkantsu then, having taken 6 minutes off, something like that, after missing his first 2 attempts at 170, came back out at 173 under a lot of pressure, and he needed this lift to stay in the competition. He almost lost the snatch sideways, as we saw him do at the 2019 World Championships, but somehow was able to stagger to a stable position and make the lift. But that barbell was at an absolute, close to 45-degree angle. Venezuela's Kedemar Vanilla then upped the stakes to 175 kilos, and he made it on his second attempt. With one more snatch still to come, he was looking in really good shape. Chen Pojen from Taipei then came out and did 1 kilo better, making 176, and then we got to 177. A few people went here. Anton Plesnoy tried to get that 177. He got under it, almost stood up, but lost the bar behind before he could get his legs fully locked out with the bar overhead. This was a shame because Anton Plesnoy is a better snatcher than he is a clean and jerk. We know that he can snatch 180 or more. With that miss on the second attempt, it looked unlikely that he was going to go up and attempt those heavier 180 plus weights. Miso Hosono then also came out for 177 and also struggled, losing the lockout when the bar was overhead and having to dump it. He did his classic sort of run off forward of the stage, smiling, happy that he knows that it's right there, rather than being upset that he missed it. The difference in reaction between him and Plesnoy is obvious. And that then left an opportunity for Bodhi Santavi, but the misses continued, and he also lost the lockout at his 177 attempt. And then Kedemar Vanilla broke this run of misses. He showed all the other lifters how to take 177 kilos. He even had the chance for a cheeky glance to the side as he stood it up, which is basically what Miso does. So he kind of stole Miso's move and looked over to the side as if to say, I was the one who was able to make it. Perhaps he inspired the other lifters, because then Anton Plesnoy came out and made 177, and then Miso Hosono came out and also made 177. And then, perhaps wanting to get the bragging rights over his opposition, Bodhi Santavi went up to 178, and he made the lift and celebrated amazingly. I'll be honest, it was wobbly, but I maintain that it was basically just shoulder rotation really fast in and out, rather than actually any wobbling at the elbow. And so there was still one snatch to go for Taipei's Chen Pojen, but 180 kilos was beyond him, despite, as I said, having made it in training just a month ago. And so with the front runners separated by just a couple of kilos, things were set for an exciting clean and jerk session. Bodhi Santavi 178, Miso Hosono, Kedemar Vanilla, and Anton Plesnoy at 177, Chen Pojen at 176. Adamus again got things going with 197 kilos in the clean and jerk. The clean didn't look easy, but the jerk was good. Chen Pojen, despite having snatched 176 kilos and having made the last attempt in the snatch, he came out very early at 200 kilos to ensure a total, and he made that. And then this is where the session began to get extremely scrappy. Toshiki Senpai Yamamoto took the same weight and, as expected, made the clean at 200 kilos look easy, considering his 320 kilo squat, but the jerk looked rushed and he missed it. Yu Dongzhu's clean was nowhere near as easy as Toshiki Senpai's, but he did complete the jerk. Then snatch leader Bodhi Santavi came out surprisingly light on the clean and jerk at 200 kilos just to nail a total, despite one red light from that central referee. Rizulbakov followed suit with a safe 200, and then Yamamoto came back out at 200 kilos, again on his second attempt, but became lightheaded after the clean, and he couldn't complete the jerk. So a potential did not finish on the cards for Yamamoto. On his third attempt, the same thing happened, and so sadly a very, very popular lifter, both domestically and abroad, missed all of his lifts in the clean and jerk and did not get a total at his home Olympic Games. Yevgeny Tukantsu, who is known for being brutally strong, then came out at 201 kilos and missed his opener, which told us everything about the kind of shape that he was really in. Remember, he hit 222 kilos back in 2019, and we haven't seen him since, so I was concerned until this moment. He collapsed under the clean, and then he was ruthlessly minuted by some other lifters, which meant that he had to come out with less than a minute's rest. This time he managed the clean but got red lights for an elbow touch. Where the knee touches the elbow, it's a no lift in weightlifting. The same thing happened on his third attempt, and he became the second lifter to finish without a total. All these misses meant that Adamus had a long wait between his 197 open and his second attempt at 204. He got under the clean, but he didn't catch a bounce and he couldn't stand it up. That's 6 misses in a row. Chempo got things back on track with a good, hard-fought clean and jerk at 205 kilos, but it was back to a slew of misses. And we hadn't seen the end of these whole elbow touches either. This time it was Yu Dongzhu who was picked up for it by the referees on his 205 kilo attempt. That's a no lift. Bodhi Santavi also struggled with 205 kilos. He was unable to complete the jerk, which is rare for Bodhi. He just didn't look as strong in the clean as we've seen from him recently either. That was a no lift. Adamus then failed on it as well, getting dizzy after the clean. Yu Dongzhu tried it again, but failed again, and his day was done with 360 kilos in the total. Finally, Anton Plesnoy looked much stronger than the previous few lifters, coming out at 206 kilos and cleaning it easily and completing a very nice jerk. He's always been technically pretty perfect in that split jerk, despite having missed the jerk at 220 a couple of times. He looked a very likely medalist at this point, but unfortunately, as he began to walk back off the platform, his leg buckled and he hobbled off, barely able to load it. So the question at this point was, is he finished? Bekdulot Razulbekov took 208 kilos and just attacked it with full aggression, which really did the trick. He made that lift. He had 1 attempt remaining. Bodhi Santavi did the same, just full aggression. He made the lift emphatically to move up into the medal slot for his final attempt. He kissed the platform after he stuck the jerk, and with Anton Plesnoy in pain, it really looked possible that he was going to hold on to that medal slot. Also, Kedemar Veonia hadn't even opened yet. But even assuming that Kedemar was to make his lift and then Mezo Sona was to make his lift, that would still leave Bodhi in bronze above Anton Plesnoy. And finally, Kedemar Valania came out at 210 kilos for his opener, which he made look very comfortable. He's clearly worked on his technique. He used to be the kind of guy who jumped 2 yards back, then it was 1 yard. Now it wasn't too much at all, and he got up with that and made the lift very well. He would have a medal, but we just didn't know what colour yet. He sat in gold at this position, though of course Mezo Sona had not entered the chat. Anton Plesnoy then came out for 210 kilos to get himself into a better medal position on his second attempt, but he dropped the bar early before he even reached the hip. Clearly just in a lot of pain, and he looked totally finished at this point, which was devastating, as it would mean that Plesnoy, my pick for silver, would move out of a medal position after Mezo Sona had opened up. He had a 2-minute clock and followed himself after receiving a little bit of treatment from Dr. Georgie in the back room. Still then in clear pain, he made a heroic attempt. It was agonizing to witness the agony in his face. He grimaced as he pulled beyond the high thigh position that had flattened him just 2 minutes earlier, but somehow, some way, he made the clean and then he made the jerk before limping from the platform and being carried down the stairs by Dr. Georgie. That put him in silver medal, which would likely become bronze after Mezo Sona had finished lifting. But one man could still deny him a medal though. It was Chempo Zhen, who came out for 211 kilos, but to Plesnoy's relief, no doubt, he clerked the lift. Kedemar Valania, sitting in gold medal position, tried 215 kilos to solidify things, but he couldn't make the clean, dropping it on his forearms. Bekdulot Razulbekov, who still had 1 attempt, somehow still in this competition, took a go at 260 kilos for his final attempt, and he came really close. The clean was great, the jerk was almost there, he held onto it. He just lost balance sideways and nearly embedded this barbell just completely into the platform, which made me wonder, if he had done that and had ruined the platform, what would happen for Mezo Sona? Would they just take a really long break as they mended the platform or replaced it? I'm not quite sure. Fortunately, the platform was unharmed. For his final attempt, Valenier came out at 260 kilos, still sat in the lead for this final lift. Obviously, that is before Miso Hosono came out. And he hit the save of the competition at 216 kilos. His lockout in the jerk held somehow as he chased the bar all around the platform. He celebrated manically with his coaches, so much so, and this was just terrifying to watch, that his coaches, they didn't realize that 2 of the referees had pressed red and they didn't play their challenge card. And so we were all just yelling at the live feed to try and get the coaches to turn around and recognize that the athlete had been given a no lift. But fortunately, the jury decided to take a look anyway, but ultimately decided to stay with the referee's decision. Having rewatched it 10 times, we reckon that the lift itself was good. Like there was no elbow touch, there was no press out or anything like that. We reckon that he began to lower the bar just fractions of a second before the down signal, and that's why he got the no lift. Fortunately, this miss from Kedemar did not mean anything for his placement. He would still finish at this point in the lead, but obviously we haven't seen Miso yet. So Miso Hosono just needed 217 kilos to take the gold medal. He came out, as he does, looking this interesting mixture of aggressive and cheeky at the same time, like he kind of knows that he's about to do something special, and he wants to check that we've all noticed that he's about to do it. And despite the bloodbath that was the rest of the session, Miso hit the lift comfortably. He was Olympic champion, and the joy on his face was palpable. Then he used a second attempt to put more reds on the bar to try and take the Olympic record with 225 kilos. The clean was easy again, the jerk maybe a little bit harder, but still he stuck it comfortably for the record. Olympic champion, Olympic record holder. Could he be the world record holder too? He had 232 kilos loaded for him just to try and take Tian Tao's world record in the clean and jerk. And he came out for it, but as is predictable of all athletes in this position where they win a major championships and have a lift remaining, he clocked the lift, leaving the now retired Tian Tao and the likely retired Sarab Moradi to live on in the history books with their own world records. Miso Hosono was Olympic champion. He'd done it. And having spent so much time with Miso over the years personally, living with him, eating with him, training with him, I just couldn't be more pleased for him. So thrilled. He really deserved this win. He is Qatar's first ever gold medalist at the Olympic Games. He left Qatar an athlete, and he's going to return a heralded legend of the country. Also, an interesting bit of news. Apparently Tian Tao was commentating on the Chinese live stream. I'd really love to know what he had to say.